Hello everybody, and welcome to our first edition of our MPTV Coaches show. I'm Ryan Lindley, and this fall and throughout the entire school year, we're going to take you onto the Potters sideline and get in touch with all the people that lead our Potters athletic teams. Our first episode, to start it off, I'm joined by Potters football head coach Tim Brilley. Coach, let's just jump right into it. Last year was, by all accounts and numbers, the best season in Morton history. 10 victories, semifinal playoff appearance. Talk to me a little bit about what was so great about last year, and then what do you take into this year off of that?
You know, the biggest thing is, just that consistency we showed down the run, and just kind of that attitude that, if we do things the right way, consistently on and off the field, and, show up to work every day, I think we have the kids and the talent in the building to be successful in not only the middle line, but in the postseason. But it comes with a lot of work, and, last year we started 0-1 right off the bat, and it wasn't a pretty game either. So we had a lot to fix early, and I think our kids responded, and just kind of got comfortable with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're standing here. It's Monday morning as we film this of Week 1, so it's officially game week. Friday night had the Cherry and Grace scrimmage. Obviously, it's 30 minutes of work. It's a scrimmage, but what do you take away from that kind of maybe sets the tone for practice this week?
I think our ones are good on both sides of the ball. I think that we kind of mix and match, so it wasn't like an offensive show or a defensive show, against the second team offense or defense, or even third team. So both teams were competitive, and obviously we can film that and take things away and kind of treat it like a game, so we can make corrections starting today, going into that Muhammad game, Week 1. So, Week 1's all about, limiting turnovers, limiting mistakes. Muhammad's a very talented football team, so we know that we have to play well to win regardless, so we got to eliminate as many mistakes as possible in advance.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that game. I mean, obviously when the schedule was set, maybe people don't realize that, but schedules get set away down the road for football.
Correct. Yeah.
So nobody knew that this was going to be a playoff rematch when this game was originally scheduled. But as it turns out, the season opener against Muhammad is a rematch of the quarterfinal game that was played here at lovely Carper Field, where we're filming this morning. Does that add maybe a little extra to this first week?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. We're just familiar and being two opponents away, and we were their last game last year, and they came here, and we had a great, home field environment, and we played really well, and I'm sure that left a bitter taste in their mouth. They have a ton of good players coming back, so they're going to be very talented again, and I'm sure have another great season. So you never know. But again, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket in Week 1. It's not going to make or break us for the year. No matter what the result is, we come away and win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. We're going to have to still continue to have the same mindset that we got to get better each week, and you never know. You can see them again in the postseason as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kind of mention, never want to look too far ahead, but kind of looking at the season as a whole. I mean, Middle Illini is really a very strong football conference.
Absolutely.
I mean, arguably, as far as a 5A conference, maybe one of the best 5A conferences in the state of Illinois. Not necessarily to take it week by week, but just kind of the Middle Illini this year, just as competitive as ever?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I think the top, there's 4 or 5 teams at the top that are going to be competing with each other. You never know what you're going to get from East Peoria and Limestone. They're going to be improved, I think, both programs. Canton has, they're into their 3rd year with a newer head coach, and I'm sure they're getting more established, and they'll be more of a challenge. So we respect everyone, and we're going to prepare the same for everybody. Pekin returns a lot. They're going to be a very tough team. We played a very physical game with them last year, and they went to the 2nd round in 7A. Obviously, Washington is who we split the conference with last year, but they beat us. So it's one of those games that, it's always going to be a challenge. And then Metamora is going to be very, very hungry. They were 5-0 and then lost the year on a 5-game losing streak, or ended the year on a 5-game losing streak. So I'm sure that left they're going to be very motivated coming into the season and going from there. And Dunlap always has great athletes, and they're going to be competitive. That's for sure. So
absolutely. Now, one other home game that's going to happen before we get into that Middle Illini schedule is Richwoods will be here, and just kind of talk a little bit about that's playing those local Peoria teams out of conference is something that Morton hasn't done a lot. It's kind of exciting, I think, to have the Knights come to Carper Field.
Yeah, we were saw they were open Week 2, and we're got them on the schedule, and unfortunately it's it's only going to be a one-year deal. Their conference just joined another conference for their post or non-conference games, so it'll be the only opportunity. They were here in 2017 and beat us in the second round of the playoffs. They were a very solid team that year, obviously, and that's really the last time we played them. But it was a great atmosphere. There's a lot of coaches, I'm sure, that know each other on the staffs, and I'm sure some of the players know each other as well. So it's just one more added rivalry to the list.
Absolutely. And then, one other question, kind of related to football, but outside of the actual on-the-field stuff. One thing that you've been talking to the team a lot about is the book Twin Thieves.
Sure.
That is something that you've kind of used as a model to kind of take the mental side of the game and teach the guys something more about more than just the blocking and tackling of football.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Twin Thieves is a book that, it's come out a couple years ago now. It was very influential. It's one of the most, just down to earth. It was like a step-by-step guide on how to address your team if, you're not quite getting over that hump. Maybe you're having success. And the Twin Thieves are a fear of failure and fear of judgment, which many people adults can attest to, but let alone high school age kids. So we talk a lot about how we can get over that fear of failure and the fear of judgment and put the team first and put our goals first. And, it's really about loving each other and taking care of each other and worrying about the guy next to you and working for the guy next to you and kind of taking it away from the spotlight off of you.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we want to thank you for joining us this morning. Folks, stick around. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with Potter soccer coach Tory DeLong right after this. Welcome back here to our MPTV Coaches show. Ryan Lindley, and as you can see, we've switched locations, and now we're joined by MHS varsity soccer coach Tory DeLong. And
hello.
Coach, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And let's just start with this. Last year was a really successful season for the MHS boys soccer team. Victory over Notre Dame in the regional is always a huge highlight, historic, if you will. But just the season as a whole, I think, was really strong. When you look back at last year, what are some of the highlights and things that stay with you?
Well, I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. Being a share co-champion of the conference was large. We obviously want to have conference success, and then from that point on, start branching out into tournament success. We were unbeaten at the Great River Classic, which is one of the premier tournaments in the year, and then, of course, winning the regional, which was a regional death for us. We had Peoria, Notre Dame, Richwoods, 3 teams that any one of us could have made that same run that we were able to make, could have gone far. And so to have all 3 of us in the same regional was a challenge. To win that regional by itself was impressive. Then, of course, to go on, we had a loss earlier to Washington, and so to beat them in the sectional championship was big. And the further you get, the more painful the loss is. So we've had a couple years out of the 3 where we've gotten to that super sectional, chance to get to state, and just fell short against a very good team that Rockford Boylan ended up winning the championship. And I think they were playing with a red card in that championship game. So that gives you an idea how powerful that team was. They're a very good team.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the transition to this year. As you said, tremendously successful year last year. As you begin the season this week, talk about practice so far. What do you like? Kind of where is the team right now?
Well, the teams, we're going to have a unique situation where we actually play as a team more so than we have probably in the last 3 or 4 years. We've had that all-state caliber player that we've been able to ride a little bit through success. And right now, unless someone develops into that in the next month or so, which could easily happen, we're going to have to make sure we are truly a team. We may not have that one individual that scores all of our goals, but I think we have 5 or 6 guys that can step up and score those goals for us. So we're definitely going to have to play as a team more. Not that we haven't, but we definitely can't rely on a superstar to pull us through when we maybe have in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the unique things about your schedule is you start with a pretty tough first week of games. And maybe that's good to kind of see where you're at, but I'm sure there's part of you that wouldn't mind a little bit easier, beginning to the season. But early on here, PND and U-High in the first week of games.
Well, right, and even before that, we have United Township, East Moline, which when they are good, they are very good. And so it's kind of a baby step this week. We have United Township, who will be a challenge, and then U-High this Thursday, which will be a slightly bigger challenge. And then, of course, the perennial favorites every year, Peoria Notre Dame this Saturday, which is an early match for both of us. I'm sure we both would rather play later, but that just is what it is. It'll be meaningful because the seeding will be figured out later on. If they decide to put us in the same section sectional, then this game will be important. But if they do, by they, IHSA, sometimes sends us in a different area, maybe it's not as big of a game as we might think, but obviously pride's on the line for them and us.
Obviously, we don't want to look too far ahead, but I mean, just to put a little bit into the future, you do host your own home tournament every year,
yes.
And that's always a big weekend at McClellan Park. Just kind of talk a little bit about who's in the tournament this year, what teams you're bringing down from the Chicago area, and what fans might see if they come out then.
Yeah, I love the tournament because we kind of branch off. We kind of have everything in geographical settings. We have Southern Illinois teams, we have Edwardsville, Rochester out of Springfield. We then go to the Northern Illinois area. We also have a Missouri team, Gateway Legacy, so we get that Southern flavor from this geographical location. Then we go to the suburbs where we have Batavia out of the suburbs. Jefferson High School is actually out of Rockford, which is coming down. West Aurora, who's a suburban team. And so it's just fun to have those opportunities to play teams that we don't really see. And we do that again later on when we go to Burlington, Iowa. We get to see teams. We're playing Barrington right out the gate, which you may be more familiar with Barrington than I am. They were a very strong team last year, and so we'll be tested, not just throughout the whole season, and that's what's fun about it, playing against good teams and seeing how good we are. Yeah,
absolutely. And then just a little bit within conference, I mean, the Mid-Illini certainly has been very competitive in recent years. I assume that's going to be the same this year as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from other teams, but the top three teams that are going to be competing are going to be similar to what we've had recently. We should be up there, Dunlap should be up there, and Washington. And so Washington arguably has one of the best offensive players in the area right now, and so if we can shut him down, we should have success, and we should be very sound defensively. Dunlap, they're going to be finding things. They're very young and going to be. They had 2 or 3 really strong players that they have to replace, but I know that by the time we play them, which is the last conference game of the year, they'll have it figured out. So it should be very competitive, and I'm not taking anything away from the other members of the conference. Metamora will be solid and everything. It'll be competitive. It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's go big picture for a second. I mean, obviously from a coaching standpoint, you always want to impart certain lessons or certain messages to the team. Is there any theme or anything in particular this year that you're trying to get across to the guys?
I think whether I'm talking about when I coach in the fall with the boys or coach in the spring with the girls, is just being competitive. That, if you're down, fight back. If you get ahead, continue to fight. That just everything in life is competitive to some degree. You're competing for the job, you're competing for the raise. Be competitive, never give up. And if we can just keep those kids to have that fighting spirit, I think it should be a fun year.
Awesome. And we obviously hope to have you back on as the season goes along, kind of get updates along the way. Obviously, we want to thank Coach DeLong for being here. We want to thank Coach Brilley, who joined us in the first segment of the show. And folks, make sure you tune in all through not only just the fall sports season, but all through the 2022-2023 school year, as we'll be joined by a multitude of MHS coaches and MJHS coaches as we take you kind of behind the scenes here on our MPTV Coaches show. So for Coach DeLong, for our great MPTV crew, I'm Ryan Lindley. Have a great day, everybody.